Yeah, that's
So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the, what did we call it? I didn't even know what we first ever. The first ever community meeting. My name is Steve Smith. I'm fortunate to be on this team of what we've been calling a steering team over the last few months since the advent of the GoFundMe that I think many of you are familiar with and probably donated to. So thank you so much for that. We're so glad you're here and so thankful that you are part of this remarkable community. It's clear from the participation in the GoFundMe and all of the conversations that have we've been having and what we've been hearing from you, that this is a very, very special place in this neighborhood and in the greater Seattle area. Just a really quick housekeeping note for everyone. So as you can see, we're webcasting. This is being recorded. So the session, the video session is being recorded. And so therefore, all of you in this room will be recorded if you are participating. The purpose of this evening is primarily to get your input. We will be talking a little bit about things that this steering team has worked on and developed over the past few months, but we want to spend the bulk of the time getting input from you. You see, we've got some flip charts here, and there's going to be a facilitated session. So in addition to that, we will be, as I said, informing you a little bit about what the steering team has been up to. But we want to be finished by 9 o'clock, and the fact that we want to be finished by 9 o'clock and want to spend the majority of the time getting your input means we may have to do a little bit of time management here or there. So if we happen to be going too long on a particular discussion or topic, we may intervene and move on. So hopefully you'll be patient and understanding. But I think that's all I have to say as a matter of kind of getting us started. I want to turn it over though to our illustrious Theo to because he wants to share a few words. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you. I thought I would start. My actual name is Tadeusz Stanisław Zelekowski. So that's what the Polish people do. So most of you know me as Theo Zelak, and some of you know me as Theo, and some of you know me as Hake, and I have a triple shot milk latte. Anyway, this is both exciting and necessary, and it's a little frightening to me. I'm trying to think of different feelings that I'm having right now. So what I've come to, and what the steering committee knows, is that in order for Couth Buzzard to have a sustainable future, and also for my own personal health and stuff, because that I'm going to phase out of Couth Buzzard. We don't have the exact path for that yet, but I know it's going to be a good path because the people who are on the steering committee and everyone else I talk to becomes investment stuff are really encouraging and present really good visions and questions and stuff to get me thinking about that. But that's basically it. And the timeline isn't exact. I'm going to be here through the year, through this year, and the committee will tell you more exactly what we all have been studying and thinking about and writing up and stuff like that. So anyway, I'm phasing out, and the Couth Buzzard has to go on as the Couth Buzzard, because people keep saying the Couth Buzzard is Theo, but it's not Theo. It's just Theo started it, and we need community more than ever, as we've seen. The real quick story, I chose this shirt tonight for a reason, and this shirt was for my 50th birthday. It's a bowling shirt from the movie The Big Lebowski. It used to be down the street with Lonnie Lane's. The Lonnie Lane's was an essential community gathering place. That's gone. Now people store their extra. It's a storage space. And so that's what the vision of the Couth Buzzard has always been. So for me, is a community gathering place. We have books and cafe and music and that stuff, but really the essence is to keep our community together. Anyway, thank you. We love you, Theo.
We should probably introduce ourselves.
Yes.
We didn't do that.
Good idea.
Yeah.
So, yeah, with that, and Theo, is it safe to say that this team of people is one you felt comfortable with, when we convened this?
I was honored, yeah, because there's so much, skill level here, different skills. But it's gonna be, yes, I did. Yeah. It's gonna take a lot of mind power to pull this off, and it's here with this community.
Thank you. Want to start?
Oh, I'm on the left.
Yeah.
All right. I'm Carol Levin. You might know me as a musician as Carol J. Levin. And my connection with Couth Buzzard goes back down the road. So our reservoir of credit from bringing books in goes back to the other location, way back when. But also, as a musician, I have been involved in the jazz community and the improvised music community under the wonderful management, what do you want to say? Facilitation of Kenny Mandel. And it's, I mean, I live, 8 blocks away, 10 blocks away. So it's a third place for me. Well, I guess it's a second place because I don't work anymore. So I was honored to be invited. I have a history and a background in organizational behavior and facilitation. So that's one of the reasons I was asked to join this team. And I'm good at asking difficult questions. Hey guys, am I?
Yeah.
All right.
I introduced myself briefly up top, but I'm Steve Smith, and I love this place. I believe in this place. My connection, though, primarily is to knowing Kate and Theo for a very long time, even longer than Theo has been involved with Couth Buzzard, because I happen to be complete together.
Oh.
But I've lived in the Seattle area for over 30 years, and had various roles in consulting and program management. So I've provided some of that assistance to this team.
Let's go to this end. I want to go next. Andy, you go next.
My name's Andy Rue Forrest, and I'm a business person. I'm a serial entrepreneur and a songwriter, and currently I am the executive director of a nonprofit. I've started some private companies and some nonprofit ventures, and I host the singer-songwriter event, which happens on the first Saturday of the month in this room. And I've been doing that for a long time, before Doug was born. And so I just love, when I describe Couth to people, I just, the word welcoming to me is the word that really resonates with me, because there's not that many places which are as welcoming. That's it.
I'm Kate, and I think I'm going to speak a little bit later, a little more on philosophy. Is that right? Or anyway, so for now, because I could say, wow, well, I put that picture up and I put that up there, and Theo and I go way back to the 80s.
Before Doug was born.
Yeah, before Doug and Andy. So we have a very deep connection and are currently living together, in part to just keep this bookstore going. So yeah, I love the place.
I'm Doug Plummer, and I apparently accidentally started all this. I'm the one who posted the GoFundMe. I did so because my Irish music session meets here. It's been very important for me as a as a musician to have this space for that. I heard the announcement of the Couth closing at the end of April. And then I attended a session here and Kate was here. She spoke eloquently about what the store meant and what was happening. I said, what's the problem? You need to meet next month's rent? We can figure that out. I'll just start a GoFundMe. And, you know, I put one up, asked for this modest amount to cover a couple months' rent, 15,000. We met that in 24 hours.
Less than that.
Less than that, yeah, they within the day, we met the 15,000, so I doubled it to 30. We met that, and then it doubled again. We've got raised over $60,000, which said a couple of things. One is the community just said with this magnificent loud voice, the Couth Buzzard is not going to close on our watch. And that unicorn event of the support, the financial support to keep this place going, meant that we now have a responsibility to ensure that for the long term. I did not want this GoFundMe to just get through the next crisis until the next inevitable crisis happens, until the next thing, because obviously the community wants something a bit more sustainable than endless rescuing of this store to keep it going as it is. So that's why we gathered the steering committee to figure out ways in which we can orient how this store is structured and organized to ensure its long-term survival and to make sure the community has a voice in that. Steve.
Thank you.
Can we stop for 1 second? Just, are the people, is everybody okay? Who's virtual? Okay, great. They can hear and everything like that. Okay, great. Thanks.
So yeah, Doug, thanks for that. And in a moment, Doug's gonna take the talking stick again because he's gonna talk a little bit about some of the things we have been thinking about as potential future directions for Couth Buzzard. But before that, just to give you a little bit of an idea of things that we have been working on over the last few months, I would say the biggest thing is we've been probably doing what a lot of you have been involved with in other spheres and roles that you've had probably across your professional lives, which is really trying to get to the bottom of what is this place actually all about? What is the mission and or what should be the mission and the vision for Couth Buzzard? So we've been spending a lot of time doing that. But one of the reasons why we wanted to involve all of you is we at various points realized this at its core, this place is about community and about connection. And so in addition to a survey that was distributed a few months ago, we wanted to have an event like this where we could get direct input from all of you. The anecdotes, the stories, the ideas, especially around specific possible directions. And that's why we're here. I wanted to touch base also just on some nuts and bolts about the business. We assisted Theo in hiring an accountant so that we could, and Theo himself could get an up-to-date idea of how Couth Buzzard is doing from a financial standpoint. So wonderful accountants helped us get our books all shored up, and there's ongoing bookkeeping assistance that Theo, I'm sure, would attest. That can be a big job, and having someone help with that has been instrumental in us having clarity about what's next. On that financial note, though, one thing I wanted to say is, we've talked about the GoFundMe a couple of times. Thank you again for what you have done there, because that money has really served to provide an invaluable buffer between where we are today and what could be, something that feels catastrophic, like the Couth Buzzard suddenly needing to shut down. So the GoFundMe has served to provide that buffer and a little bit of time and space for Theo to collect his thoughts about his future and work with his steering team to actually give us this opportunity. At the same time, it's our belief as a steering team looking at the financials that and really looking at all of the programs and everything that it takes to provide a community space like this, that it's not a sustainable model moving forward, that we're at a point where we need some kind of a different approach to Couth Buzzard for it to be sustainable. Theo is extraordinarily devoted. He's an extraordinary person who's extraordinarily devoted. And he's had extraordinarily devoted staffs as well. And that's been amazing. But really, for this to be able to be a thriving enterprise moving forward, we believe that a different approach will be needed moving forward, and that's really what we're here to talk about tonight and to get your input on. So, given that, I will turn it over to Doug to talk about a couple of 3 options we've started to consider.
Yeah, well,
Should we talk about the leads, which is on there or not?
the lease, well, that's gonna be part of this.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we did go through the lease review as far as what the nature, what our things coming up are.
Do you want me to say a couple?
Yeah, say something about the lease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, one of the conversations we had as a group was, is Couth this space? Are those 2 things connected? And it obviously it has been in this space, and it doesn't own this building, so there is a lease, and that lease is up next year, in the fall of next year. And there's no reason to think that it wouldn't be renewed if we wanted to renew it. We've talked with the property owner's representative about that and have been led to believe that, it could be renewed. But we're also in this situation here where, where we have a development zone going on. You don't have to, you can see what's going on in the neighborhood. And eventually this building will be taken down and something larger will be built. So, just trying to put that into the equation, and about when we talk about longevity, about how that would affect, a long-term enterprise. But that's where we are. I think that really the property owners, if we have a plan of how to take Couth forward, and we can develop that, over the next few months, that they're very interested in hearing about that plan. They're interested in us staying in the space if we are paying the rent.
Yeah. So what are the possible models for the Couth going forward if Theo is no longer part of the enterprise? And that's the thing, it has been Theo's baby now. How does a baby go out of the world? What is the solution we had last April? It doesn't. You close the doors. Thank you very much. Money has kept us going. It can pay off some debts. We're good. Bye-bye. I don't think you want us to do that. The community says, nah, that ain't what we want to do. The second option is to find another buyer for the place. Can someone take this private business and change things around to make it more profitable to support it and keep it going kind of as is? That's great. That'd be the easiest solution to keep this place going. There'd be no control as to what the philosophy of a new owner would be for this space. We don't know. But it certainly would be the easiest way to keep the doors open. The way that we think meets the needs of the community and is the hardest path is to create a nonprofit whose mission is to be a community gathering space that happens to sell coffee and maybe sell a few books, we don't know, but that its core mission is about giving back to the community. That is going to require a lot of community effort. It's going to require a lot of fundraising to make that occur. And the big issue we're facing is that the purpose of a nonprofit cannot be to sell books. The law, the state won't let you do that. The IRS won't let you do that. It has to be about a mission that the nonprofit is serving. And so that's why we need a community input to understand what could that look like? What do you value most about this place? What are the aspects of the Couth that have to survive to still be the Couth Buzzard you want? What might be extraneous that we can let go of? And so that's I think is establish the parameters of what we're looking for from you guys tonight. Help in thinking that through. There's not enough of us here to do that. We need help from you guys to get some ideas as to what a nonprofit, if you think that's the proper path, and maybe we start a discussion around that to see if there's a consensus around that. Now, what do you also want to say?
Well, other people have brought up other models, just to throw in a difficult thing. I mean, people have talked about a co-op organization, a worker co-op, a member co-op, some kind of membership organization. We haven't gone deeply into exploring that either. just to say those are a couple of other models.
And those are also nonprofits.
Yeah.
They require all the legal aspects to establish.
And just to be clear, a nonprofit can run a business like selling books, and it can run a business like a cafe, but it has to pay taxes on that revenue. Because that is, if it's not in the community benefit mission. So a museum can have a cafe in it, but it's probably being treated as a business that nonprofit owns. So I just wanted to make that clear. It really has to be the nonprofit part of it that's collecting tax deductible donations for a 501c3. It would be tax deductible. A certain class of that nonprofit. It really has to be serving a community benefit.
Thanks, Andy. So thank you, Doug, as well. I think we're doing okay on time for the moment. Kate, did you want to take a few minutes to share the philosophy?
Sure, we're way ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
I'm gonna finish my sandwich while you're talking.
Well, I'm just very glad I met that guy. Wow. Well, what I've been bringing to the steering committee is, well, in thinking about the nonprofits, I keep thinking, and having worked for them and had to work on some grants, like what are measurable outcomes, right? And what's popping out to me and to probably everybody is that you can measure now that loneliness and isolation has detrimental health effects on people's lives. So I grab onto that. You know, it's like, we're going to need that. And the other one is the whole book banning movement that I have been sort of like aware of, or that we need to protect any kind of pillars of knowledge and books that we possibly can, given what we're faced with. So that jumps out at me like that's more political, but wow, it just like brings passion to me to protect that, as does the whole piece about loneliness, that as far back as I can remember as a little girl, never understanding how people can be lonely when there's so many people around. So over the last 5 months, when there's been this possibility of this place closing, my relationship with it has been that when Theo opened it 14 years ago, what we did is Theo and I hosted cabarets years ago, and we did 4 a year for 5 years. We brought the artists to us. And then for our wedding vows, we said part of our wedding vows was building community. And that was in 92. This goes way back, like just even like being in this moment right now for he and I is really on some level profound, because of just this long commitment to this. And I say that sometimes when I open for maybe some music gigs here, as I say, when I think back on those cabarets in the late 90s when we were doing those, I think of them as some of the best years of my life. Just like artists being in this beautiful living room of a neighbor's in this golden room and 50 people that we could fit in there, and artists just doing what was coming from them, and it didn't matter how good they were, how old they were. And I think back on that, and then when we started bringing them here, it was like, oh my God, we're still doing that, and then we're still doing it, we're still doing it, and just how precious that is. That's like gold, So there's that big piece. So when I I've been thinking, and then we lost our daughter Ruby to cancer in 2012, and that's important for many reasons, but because the bookstore was only a couple of years old here, and Ruby told Theo, he said, I want to be at the hospital with you. And she said, no, you have to keep the bookstore going. So the bookstore became our church. That's really what it felt like. We did fundraisers here and it was like, oh my God, spaces like this are like church, like, you know, we need that so much. So that concept was just flowing through us. We raised money and all those people felt that depth that lives in these walls. And I believe that because Theo has not been shy about his grief and this loss, that's part of the ineffable value of this place is us sharing our sorrows. And that is gold. And so back to when I think about this place closing, so my involvement's been in and out, more so in the last 4 years. Theo moved into my condo when I went down to LA for a year to work on my book. I came back, he was still sitting there. I'm like, oh, my husband is still sitting in my apartment. But then it was just, and then COVID happened. And then, you know, but then it's like, this is part of what it takes, you know, and fortunately we love each other and don't fight about the dishes, but my involvement has been kind of peripheral, but the last 4 years has been much more. So when I thought about it closing, I went, where would I go? You know, like, wait, where would I go? And that's what happens. Then we're alone, you know, I don't have a church. So, I mean, that's what I thought was, no, it can't go. It can't go. It is my place where I can be the social clown, you know, and what the clown does, the big hidden secret of the clown is spins love, spins connection. So when I walk in here and somebody's lonely or they're sick and you hug, that's magic, right? And when I tend to that garden out front and people say good morning, that's magic, you know? So just those, it's like, I'll just end by saying that I'm good friends with Fred Mendick, who started Teachers Without Borders. His wife, my dear friend Rosalie, who's the art therapist at Children's Hospital, is in Israel right now. She's trying to get out. Her daughter lives there. I'm bringing that up because they so get the value of this place. And Fred's book is going to come out in April, and it's called In the Small Places. And that's their deep commitment to obviously education worldwide, but just knowing it's in the small places. So I think that's
Thanks, Kate. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Just, I want to just really repeat, just 2 days ago, we had Kate read it, but we had a celebration of
right. We had a memorial service.
for one of the most valued community members here. She came to everything, especially Kenny's stuff. She came to open mic, came to meditation, and her name was Marla. And like we had it, she wanted the celebration here. She wanted Kenny there. She wanted Kate to officiate it. She had no other, you know, this was her community. This was her home. And so we had a beautiful ceremony just 2 days ago, you know, and that's why I'm trying, how do we put that into words? You can't go to Barnes and Noble, hey, can we have a memorial service for somebody who we really care for? And go, oh yeah, you know, you can't do that in any other place. You can do the Couth, but not only can you do the Couth, but it was embraced, that Couth Buzzard. It was one of the most beautiful afternoons I've ever spent. So how do we capture that though, to convince, you know, that we are that nonprofit? That's what has been kind of, to be honest, the state has been struggling with the language. What words describe this, which is basically, I'm not related, but it's that spiritual experience.
Well, I want to just add too that one thing Theo's been saying several times in the last months is you can't fit a square peg into a round hole. And what that is all of the values that we share here don't really jive well with capitalism. You know, like that's been his struggle for all these years, is Theo's part, him being a political hippie from way back, and we never fought about money. This guy just like, you know, doesn't really.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Right. So I just want to say that too. And then Jody Hendrickson, who comes here a lot, she said, that's why I love this place, because he doesn't put profit first. But then we're sitting here, you know, wanting to value that. or figure out. how to-
So now it's your turn. Andy and Carol are gonna step us into a facilitation session. I might suggest that maybe the rest of us, we can sit back and give you guys some room to work. Is that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so Carol, I think is gonna take some notes, but also do a facilitation. We really didn't plan this out or talk about it, but we want to hear, as Steve said, we want to hear from you. There's been some things that have been mentioned here, some prompts, if you will, like what's the community benefit? And you know, that Doug said it's going to take energy, it's going to take people to step up, it's going to take a lot of work. And so we're interested in the who's going to be part of this and who's going to do it and who wants to roll up their sleeves and do the hard, you know, what my grandmother would have called the spilkes of this thing. But really, let me say those are two prompts, but you know what, guys, there aren't any rules about what we want you to say. There really aren't. You can talk about a story from Couth, you can say something about Kate or Theo, you can ask, why are these people sitting up here? Or you can ask a question about this or that, or there aren't any rules. We really did tonight because we wanted to get, you know, we thought the community, the people who show up, the people who showed up in the GoFundMe are the strongest part of Couth. And so we wanted to just feel that and to be in communion with everyone and hear that voice. Carol will try to take some notes so we can, there are a bunch of people who said that they wanted the recording, right? And they wanted a record of this. They weren't able to be here with us tonight. So we're going to try to write down those things. And what else?
I'm going to synthesize. So if I'm missing something that feels really important or heartful to you, let me know. Like, put this word in. But in history of doing this, we don't want 20 pages we have to transcribe. Right. And if you're echoing what somebody else said, say so. So I'm echoing that statement about and put more stars.
And say your name before.
Yeah, we'll say, I'll make you say your name and we'll say it loudly, because actually the people who are remote are listening through a microphone that's up here, and it's turned out pretty loud, but we still, in order for them to hear you, you got to come up or speak loudly. And if you're not speaking loudly enough, please, people who are on Zoom, tell us that you can't hear, flag us down, flag Steve down. If you have a question about something, you can put it in the chat. We have a mic up here where we can shove it in your face and embarrass you if you're not speaking loudly enough. That's a little warning.
Yes.
So
I've been running, organizing a jam here.
What's your name?
Has continued since 2013. Martha. Yeah. So we were at the Wedgewood Cafe. That ended. We came here about a year ago. The jam is so complex and beautiful. There's people who are just beginning musicians. There are very fine advanced musicians, people new to their instruments, people trying new instruments. And so there's an amazing sharing and teaching going on. And the core of the group has been the same for years and years now. So it's just magical.
that's great. Martha, when do you do that? Is there a schedule? When does that happen?
We meet Tuesday evenings here.
And
It's a weekly jam.
And is it all types of music or is it
No, we play old time.
old time music?
That's all we play.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing there is there's mixed stages and there's teaching and learning and playing. And it's a huge source of welcoming new people and community. Huh?
It's an ongoing, the building of the community is an ongoing thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's like community and there's music. The music is the main thing,
Cool.
the main focus.
Cool. Does the group have a name? No. Tuesday old time music, please.
It's called the Couth Buzzard Old Time Jam.
Okay, cool.
Hi, Rick. As you were describing, some of the various events that happened here reminded me of town hall downtown-ish, right? So I did a synonym search for town hall and I saw community center, cultural center. And the one I preferred, civic center, so I think somebody mentioned get some language. And then define out from there, maybe, one of those might appeal more to others than.
Yeah.
There's 3 ideas.
Yeah.
One, but others may go in
Yeah.
a direction.
That's great, and Rick, is that your name? Yeah, and Rick, one thing that the steering committee talked about is why is Couth different than the Phinney Ridge Community Center?
Yep.
And just what's the nature of that, what's going on here that's different than some of those places that you just mentioned,
It doesn't have to be an either or.
Right, it doesn't, that's right, but we wanted to know, if Couth Buzzard is essential, then is there things that really differentiate it? Who else? Yeah, okay,
Yeah, I know, my name is Patricia Ellis.
Patricia Ellis.
And I know, the director of House of Mercy. There's several of these House of Mercies across the Washington state. And they write grants and they get millions. They're very successful in their grant writing. And it's a place where felons go who've been released from prison, and it's a halfway house. And they're very successful in getting money. And because the recidivism rate is very low. And so I was thinking if we could keep the recidivism rate low here. That's a thumbs up for it. But like I said, they get money from the state and other organizations, millions of dollars. They get money for cars, for laptops, and it's because they're offering something that saves money for the state. And like I said, they're very successful in grant writing and raising money. And so.
And what's the name of it again? Mercy?
It's House of Mercy.
House of Mercy.
Yeah, and it was.
Okay.
Anyway, so.
Back here and then down here,
I'm Bernice Maslin. I was gonna answer the question about the Phinney Neighborhood Association, which is a wonderful organization. But if you want to use space there, you pay an hourly rent. And it depends on which building, but it could be $40 an hour, $30 an hour, $60 an hour. And that's a huge difference. Also, one thing that's similar though, is that if somebody has an idea of a program they want to run, usually the PNA will say, great, let's do it, and have that person start it. So I think in our community, we have plenty of room for all of these and a need for all of them.
What I like to say distinguishes this place is that it's a permeable membrane. There is not a door you have to go through and down a hallway to find a scheduled event. Random people walk in here and discover a whole new life they could have by whatever group happens to be meeting here. And that permeability of being a storefront business where this stuff also happens, I think is one of the crucial structural benefits of the Couth Buzzard.
My name is Steve Deutsch. And so the natural thing to me seems like the idea of, this is also a bookstore. When you mentioned a nonprofit and some of the issues with that, but it also sounds like there could be a bookstore, for-profit bookstore, whatever form that takes. And it seems like a perfect combination. It has all my life, a bookstore, cafe, and music venue. And it's a natural community gathering place. And I think of something like Third Place Books, and the very name of Third Place Books speaks to all of this. The idea of it's a home away from home for people, and gathering place for people. So I want to know what the practicalities are for that, and really what some of the barriers are that you're looking into it and have experience with it. Will say what barriers are there that need to be overcome if it's going to go into a nonprofit?
I can answer some of those.
Specifically about Third Place Books.
Go ahead.
Because I knew the owner of that, because we shared. Anyway, they have spun off a separate nonprofit that does the events. So there's the bookstore that does the bookstore stuff, and then for the music events and other events, that's done through the nonprofit organization. So that's, kind of like what Andy was hinting upon, so the music and other stuff they do there is part of that's the nonprofit. The books are the profit part of the business.
Yeah. So we had a couple of other questions.
I would answer his question
Yeah.
about some of the barriers.
Yeah. So, the barriers to running any organization are you do still have to have funds coming in to pay the expenses, right? So at first you have to, if you go nonprofit in a 501c3, which is supported by donors, you need a board, you need bylaws, usually the board hires one person, they can hire more, but they usually just hire an executive director. That's a really key thing that they need. And then they need sustainable revenues, and they can get some of those by running, they can get program revenue, like they could charge in the back room, they could charge rentals, or they could do music lessons back here and charge for those. And if those were in the mission of Couth Buzzard, then they don't have to pay taxes on that revenue. If they just gave books and it was just a book exchange and it was just like a library, that might be in the mission too, and they didn't have to do that. But when you start selling commercial books, then you have to pay taxes on that money. So between the donations and the revenue sources, you have to pay the expenses. And if you're a strong business, you have enough revenues or you have enough capital savings in the bank to last 6 months, because there can be a downturn at any time. And you also, in Seattle, it's actually expensive to have a business because your employees, this state has passed laws which protect employees. And as the real estate prices go up in a place like this, where are those employees going to live? I mean, it's hard to afford the rent. So are you going to have employees that live in Monroe and they drive in here to work, or are you going to have them part of this community? And to be part of the community in Seattle, even if you're being a barista, or even if you're working in here and you're engaged and you're an employee, you're going to have to make a lot of money. A lot of money. You're going to have to get up there towards $80,000 to just for that, and that means the expenses are high. And nonprofits that are well run have a clean mission, a clean vision, and they have a good fundraising engine. And you need energy in both of those things. So I hope that's kind of an answer to the question. But labor is the most expensive thing that you're going to do. Yeah. Let's see. Is it on this topic? Because there was another question, but if you're going to change the subject, I'm going to go over there and come back. Okay, come back. Okay. What were you going to say?
I didn't have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Good. Yeah, we're going to get to everybody. Let's go here. Let's go here in the middle. Go ahead with the right here. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Betzel. I've started several nonprofit organizations, and I have a suggestion for a purpose.
Great.
For one. My experience is that the more general and deep the purpose you can state, the better. The more effective it is in raising money and supporting a variety of activities and so on. So my suggestion for a purpose for the Couth Buzzard is to build community and reduce loneliness in the Greenwood neighborhood.
Great, love it. Great.
Eddie?
Yeah.
So we have a comment from one of the people online.
Yeah.
This is Bruce Reed saying Couth Buzzard hosts at least a couple of dozen music sessions, jams every month. I help lead one and have attended others, and I expect they all are very welcoming, including beginners to professionals, and are all about teaching, learning, and continuing music, considered music. There are also multiple musical performances each month where musicians can present non-commercial music, and like the jams, this spans many different genres of music. There's another place of any like this anywhere in Seattle. I think like teaching sessions possibly is also.
Okay, cool. There's lots of hands up, and we're going to get to everybody. So let's go to an employee first. Jonah?
Hey, so on behalf of the employees, like you said, with labor, it is the most expensive, for running a facility besides rent, right? And for all of us, you said driving up the road, which is like 20, 30, 40 minutes away. All of the employees here are kind of from the neighborhood. We all kind of live within walking distance. I myself walk from like 92nd and man walk lives like a few blocks that way. Ariel, same thing, same with Adam too. So I just want to keep helping you guys. But it is very difficult, I will say, to live in Seattle, London, image.
Yeah, we've talked a lot on the steering committee about sustainability. If you're not providing healthcare and those things that people need to leave, you can't hold on to employees for a long period of time. The people will leave to have a more sustainable. You can't run yourself into the ground to do this. You know, you have to have the feel level of passion in order to do that. And it's not to hire young people or just to hire anybody to do that. We really need to support the people who work here fully. So, yeah.
The funding stream that can do that more than what a bookstore can, but it needs to be a lot of donor income to do that.
Yeah, you and then the red jacket behind you. Yeah.
My name is Paul, and 3 points. Couth Buzzard is unique, probably in Seattle. And the idea that if we lose Couth Buzzard, something similar will take its place, it's not gonna happen. I mean, it is very unique. The other thing, as opposed to house concerts, if you're a musician, house concerts are fine. If you're musically talented, this is wonderful. I come and listen to all kinds of music. And my last point is Couth Buzzard. What we think of Couth Buzzard is what we see when we sort of stand up and look around. I think it might help if once we come up with a mission statement, is sort of give ourselves blank space and go, what would fulfill that mission? Whether or not it would be a bookstore, whether coffee is not.
Macchiato, please.
The wine is not optional.
That's not. But it's sort of work from the mission and think about what would support that.
Yeah. I think that's what the steering committee has been trying to do, to have some of that open space to talk about, but also that's why we're holding this meeting as well. So what were you going to say?
Well,
Say your name first.
I'm curious because.
No, that's your name.
Cash professional for 30 years before I retired. So have we done the analysis to know what it's gonna take to keep this going? And any options, like a business plan of what's gonna work?
Yeah, so we have made one pro forma budget, a 3-year budget for a proposed nonprofit. And we also have talked about needing a prospectus, a business plan, which people could understand, because major donors who are giving, people of means who can give a lot of money are going to want to see that. They're not going to want to invest in something with their money if they don't feel like there's a really solid plan to go forward. So that
so will board members.
And so will board members, right, wanted to, in order to be involved. So that is something that we've talked about, and we've actually made some headway in writing small pieces of that and making a pro forma budget. We have still a lot of work to do there, but we didn't want to go too far, because the steering committee actually has no official capacity. I just want to say right now, this is a business which is owned by one person, and how it transitions is going to be up to one person, and that person is Theo. So at some point, Theo might say, okay, yeah, I'm willing to sell the business to this nonprofit. I'm willing to make that sale, or I'm going to sell it to this other person. So we are serving, the steering committee now is serving in an advisory capacity to Theo, and we like to think we're serving into some capacity to the community as well, because we think Theo and the community are so dovetailed, right? But so we're in the process of that, but I think that we wanted to invite more input before we got further. I don't know if other people on the steering committee would have it.
We started making a stab at a prospectus for your very purpose to structure a nonprofit, and we realized we don't have enough viewpoints on our
small group here. We need a lot more viewpoints on this.
Yes.
So this is part of the process of getting exactly where you're saying we need to go, and we totally agree with you.
Let's go on this side of the room and then let's go on that side of the room.
Hi, I'm Chuck Gould. I hang around here sometimes. I host the open mic on Wednesday night. And as I'm sitting here and listening to all this whole thing and running through the cobwebs of the dark recesses in my mind, I see a bit of a dichotomy in a way in the way that this place functions. A good dichotomy, but it kind of works like this. The big mission, I mean, the spiritual, if you will, reality of this place is it's a community building place. This is where people come together in groups to get together, pursue art, pursue music, have discussions. They speak in funny sounding foreign languages and do all these different things here. And that's really what separates this from just the book, you know, the book bin at the airport down there. Okay. But where does the income come in? The income comes in for people who come in one at a time, typically looking for a book. And they come in and they buy a book and they buy a coffee, but that's a solitary one at a time thing. People, you know, we have open mic, we get 30 people back here. Okay. We don't, you know, you don't see the book buyers coming in 30 at a time. Okay. And so wiser people than me will figure out that we have a little bit of a dichotomy here in that end of the store is monetized. Okay, way down there next to the street, people come in, they buy a book. Theo makes 40–50%, whatever he makes, and sells them a cup of coffee. This end of the store down here, which is where the community really probably treasures the most, because this is where we get together in a group. This is where we reach out and touch each other and communicate. This is where we fight loneliness. We don't fight loneliness on that end of the store. We fight loneliness back here. Okay, this is not monetized. Okay, and I don't know the answer. Geez, if I knew the answer, I'd be a wizard. But this is not monetized. Okay, and should it be monetized, or should it be so accessible that the guy who comes in who's penniless has total access? And there's a lot to be said for that. There's a lot to be said for that. And I wouldn't want to see, you know, wouldn't want to say that shouldn't be that way. But this is not monetized back here. You know, you get past the barista stand there, okay, and the place isn't making any money. Okay, and that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
I want to respond because I bring this up with the steering group all the time, and I've been talking to Theo. Theo doesn't object to every single facilitator saying, okay, before we start, $5 minimum or more if you can afford it. We won't turn you away if you can't.
We always pass the hat open mic.
You know, but passing the hat and saying this is our sliding scale for this event, and not after the event, like before the event, and having a gatekeeper if a group is willing to do it. I'd love it, even in the short term, if that was the norm. And I keep meaning to create a little roster for leaders of things.
Let's go back here, and then let's go to Theo, and then let's go to, and then you do have something to say. Now you thought of something to say, and let's go to you, and then we'll go to Kate, and then we'll go to you. We'll go like this. We're going like this in the room.
So my name is Karen Schneider. I live very close to here. My daughters and I used to volunteer at the original Couth Buzzard. I tell you, that was a thankless job. You never, if anyone's ever there, you never felt like accomplished anything. You're just putting things away. And then I was so heartbroken when it closed down. And then I learned we just lived like a block from here. Okay, I mean, it's been a wonderful relationship. And I actually went around and interviewed 44 groups of people that met here. Here's some of the pictures. So I have assets. And that's not everybody. So I went around and made this poster because we were doing a birthday party, something for you. And I have been here to so many things. I started to ride a Mexican train. Still Andrews had about 4 or 6 groups here. This is all
You might zoom in
pre-pandemic.
on her.
I will say
You
pre-pandemic.
might zoom in on her.
Girl Scout, you guys know there's a Girl Scout group here on Sundays.
And you've got
I
some
think
in the
this is
waiting
like
room.
an intergenerational place. And I want to say, like, my grandkids come here now and they are so comfortable. One of them takes her shoe off and runs in here and then lays on the ground, looks for money. I like, oh God, I'm so your grandparents. And I have to say, the worst day of my life was here. One of them, the day Billy lives in Boston.
Oh, I wanted to say that we were all together here.
Yeah.
That, yeah.
He was bringing out the champagne.
Yeah.
I bought a case of
He
champagne.
started bringing out.
Yeah.
Then,
There was reason to drink.
no, we didn't drink everything.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just.
We sat here and
The other
cried.
piece that is different about here than the PNAs, I'm also a member there, like you can come in here and talk to people, like just talk to strangers. That happens for, I'm here a lot, so, and I observe what's going on, you just talk to people. Like it's a very unusual place that way, right? And Theo, you're wonderful in terms of you interact with people a lot, you know, everyone coming in. Lots of discussions, lots of political discussions. The book authors, that's a real service for people who have written a book and they want to get it out. You haven't done as many, it used to do a lot more pre-COVID. But I agree with the monetized part because having observed so many groups, I will notice there are people who are part of the groups that don't buy anything. And sometimes I have taken it upon myself, which is, you know, kind of policing it. I know they used to have a little sign up on the tables at some point, you know, please, you know, buy something if you're gonna be here.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I felt we could be a little more. I don't know what to say about it. I think that's actually important to get people to understand when they come here and use the space, using the lights, using the bathroom. It takes, you know what I mean? Like to really understand what they're occupying when they come here, that this is a absolutely huge service to their life. And I know that because I just know so many people that come here. So I just wanted to share that. And one thing to show your funders is like pictures of all these people who benefit from this beautiful place. You know, and I'm really grateful that you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I will say that you use the pronoun your, but they're gonna be our funders if we're a nonprofit. And we're really gonna need people to find them. There's not a group of people up here in the front of the room that are gonna find those funders. It's gonna be all the people in this room or a major number of people in this room who do that. Whether you have experience doing it or not doing it, Couth won't, if we go nonprofit, Couth won't make it unless a lot of people step up to the plate and are willing to do the hard work. Theo.
Just real quick, I like the video. More fine tuning. It's not that back here is not monetized, it's not adequately monetized. Because people are really good at buying, most people. Certain people buy their products when they host an event. It's fine. That's one you mentioned. So it's not adequately monetized, but our cafe sales are really good during events. I mean, because I look at the daily sheets every day, and if there's been, like open mic's been incredible, you know. I look at how much drink and food is sold. Geez, those are hungry, thirsty people, you know, performing. So it's not adequate.
The host doesn't share on that on the drink.
So it's not adequate.
Yeah, so we're gonna go to you again.
I had a quick question.
Okay, but before we get to you, we're gonna take a couple of things from the chat.
Sure. Yeah, okay, so this is from Gil Gensler. Couple of items here, I'll just read what you said. Could the many organizations that have used this space over time be willing to pay a regular amount, sort of essentially committed tithe to maintain the Couth Buzzard? And similarly, brainstorm to think of other organizations that haven't yet met here might benefit from it with a small regular fee. Number two, in terms of staffing, set up a relationship with the Greenwood Senior Center, for example, to have seniors staff in some way. Research how other organizations have done this, for example, the Fremont Abbey. Exemplar. Number four, on a different note, recently looked for a space to have a small birthday party. And even though the Finney Neighborhood Association was the cheapest, it is, as already said, somewhat expensive. The free room behind the bank is an amazing resource. Yet not the atmosphere for these kind of events. And also one more time, Dominique Dalino, hope I'm spelling it right. I've been working with a nonprofit group that has been working to build a tool library in Shoreline. It amazes me how a membership model, quote unquote, has managed to keep our sister library running in Northeast Seattle for $50 per year. Plus donations and some grants. Surely those in this room would likely be willing to pay that amount, which we also make entirely optional, of course. It's a sliding scale for those who can't afford even that.
Great. And can you there's a couple of people who are in the waiting room that I just saw come up, but now I don't see them. Okay, maybe they can, we're gonna come back. Oh, you know what, you haven't talked yet. So let's do you and then we'll continue again.
So I just wondered if the steering committee and others have talked with the City of Seattle Office of Economic Development.
Yes.
To see what they have to say, and also the Office of Arts and Culture, see what they have to say, because it's things like they might have some suggestions. And I know that there was, the city had a, I don't know if they still have it, but they had a storefront renovation grant going around post pandemic, and I don't know if that's something that, what the qualifications for that are, but if that's something that Couth Buzzard could perhaps tap into.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had some other ideas, maybe for the store, perhaps reconfigure the entry a little bit so that it's, my experience when I come in is that I walk in and I'm immediately, there's something right in front of me. I have to kind of move over and kind of enter the store. Maybe you could push that back a little bit. So there's a sense of when you walk into this, you have space. And the White Gold Hill up on Capitol Hill, especially when they were on Broadway and John, they had like shelves across the window. And so then they had lots and lots of books to view from the outside. You have them right now, I mean, the way you have them is okay, it's in kind of a open on a flat area, but by having them maybe kind of more in your face in a certain way, and it could also be an interesting visual from the street too. So
I'm hungry.
The other, I guess, the other things possibly like relocating the cash register and the Bristol bar so that you don't have just kind of this narrow pathway between the front and the back. Maybe, I don't know, have the cash register up front. I don't know, just think about how you might rearrange it basically so that it has, the store has a more open feel to it. And then I don't know what the what makes up a collective versus a regular business, but those are things to think about. And it seems like this store could be both a nonprofit for friends of the nonprofit that sponsors all of the music and instructional events, and then the for-profit part of the selling of the bookstore, and have them coexist.
Yeah. Right. Okay. You were next, and then and Tess, and then we're gonna go back over to this side of the room.
Yeah, I had two questions.
Yeah.
One, is there a problem here with break-ins and robberies? And two, why is it that Starbucks is so profitable when the coffee here tastes?
Yeah, go ahead.
We had pre-pandemic, there was must have been a gang going on, because we were regular break-ins in all of the businesses. In fact, here is where we had all the business owners meet with the police, because they said you have a great back room. So that community meeting happened here, and but that, not since since that time. We had 3 break-ins in like 6 or 7 months. And one of the places went out of business, the knitting place, I think. Anyway, so it was very serious for a while. Then it moved north. It's been very serious in Finney right now, here, but not since that time have we had any break-in.
Well, and the guy donated building that iron.
Oh, yeah, right.
Door.
We put that iron up because someone smashed it.
There's a lot of people who have important things to say, so we're gonna keep moving, and try to keep it, just be aware that there's lots of people to share. So go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name is Tess. I'm Katie's sister. And I live in Colorado. I don't live out here. But one of the things that I do in my work is I work with people to prepare for their end of life stages. And one of the things that I'm really aware of is that, and there are a lot of baby boomers in this room, I'm guests and these people in this room. And the baby boomer time came at the greatest economic growth that we've ever had. And now we have a lot of baby boomers who both have, not everybody has wealth, but hold a tremendous amount of wealth. And I think that the economic structure that you guys are talking about, it's, and what you're talking about with the different options around a nonprofit and for-profit and how to work with monetary resource, it's really a cutting edge thing that we're doing with this society right now, is how we do our economics. And I think part of what Couth Buzzard is bringing as well is, how do we think about stewardship? How do we think about community? How do we think about the transfer of wealth from one generation to the next generation when you were talking about employees? And stopping thinking about money in terms of how do we get it and then build from there, but rather how do we generate it and keep it moving and keep it flowing. And I just want to say that when we did the fundraiser, when these guys did the fundraiser, I looked at the fundraiser and I was like, wow, they got a lot of money very quickly. How did that happen? And I was amazed that most of it was really small donations. And I was like, a lot of money was made with really small donations.
Close to 600 people.
If you see something like that happen, you know that you're onto something.
Yes.
And so I think what Couth Buzzard is onto, what I have so much respect for you, Theo, because you have never been a capitalist. You have always, you've always strictly said, I believe in the artist. I believe in coming from a place of the artist, that the arts are the most important thing in the world. And you abandoned being a lawyer, you abandoned a lot of things to bring the arts up. And I hope that whatever Couth Buzzard becomes, it comes from that place of bringing humanity up, bringing the arts up, bringing stewardship and community up, and using your economic structure. You can have a nonprofit and make a lot of money if you have that vision of community and bringing everybody up, including the next generation, and making it an intergenerational vision and teaching people how to have community again.
That's great. That's great. Let's go over here, and then let's go down front, and then we're gonna go over here on the side.
Hi, my name's Bruce. I'm a regular here, and I'm also a volunteer DJ at a very local radio station. And we're on the verge of, before the pandemic, we were recording events, and I'd love to do that again to help to promote what music that happens here and air it on the radio. So
excellent.
KBFT.
KBFT, neighborhood station. Yeah, great.
My name's Kenny. I don't know how many events over the last 10 years I've produced, but
Hundreds.
Easily, yeah, but I do at least 10 a month. So Theo and I have a lot in common from our backgrounds in the East Coast. So we became fast friends over 10 years ago. I wanted to offer a couple of different business models. I've worked in collectives and co-ops most of my life, in food industry, in instrument building, many different areas. And one possible business model you might, I've talked to Carol a little bit about this, because we're good buddies, is a artist cooperative, meaning that any artist or musician, any in art, painter, whatever, who uses this space will contribute a certain amount of money a month. Most people I know can afford $50 a month, some people 100. And there's easily 50 to 100 people in that framework. So to go on what Chuck was talking about, you know, if you want to use this space, then you have to buy into the co-op model.
Right.
Then if we had $50 and 100 people, that's 5,000 a month.
Mhm. And that's, and that,
Ongoing.
right, that, and ongoing, and that could be a revenue stream, but it couldn't sustain the Couth Buzzard.
No.
It's not, no, but it could be an important.
But it pays the rent.
Yeah.
And you
absolutely.
could move on when you don't have to have GoFundMe's
Yeah.
every 6 months, like there has
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
over the years. We've had many of them.
Yeah.
This wasn't the first.
Yeah,
So that's one possibility. And I think that the primary focus from my experience here, and many of the people, I also teach music, so I have lots of students, is that this is a cultural center. Call it anything else you want, old age home, friendship society, I don't care. It doesn't matter, but a cultural center encompasses all those things. And whether you're performing or having a book club or writing poetry, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's all part of the big continuum. And I think that if people understand that, then they will contribute to that either with their money, their time, whatever it takes. I mean, I couldn't calculate, I don't take any money. I'm not rich, believe me. You know, I teach music, so I'm not rich and I play. But all the money that generates from the jam sessions, jazz jams goes to the house band. People are buying, and eating, the drum workshops, all the money goes to the house. The improv session, the money goes to the house. The money on the first Fridays mostly goes to the house. So if other musicians took that mindset, which they don't necessarily, unless they're coming from a cooperative worldview, then there would be an excess of money. I'm not saying this would sustain the place, but it would be thousands of dollars every month.
Right.
Perpetuity.
Right. Okay, nice. We're gonna go here because we've been waiting for a long time right here, and then we're gonna come back to you. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ning Chen, and I live about a block from here, and I just wanted to briefly add on to what Bernice and Martha said earlier. First of all, I host the Irish music session here twice a month, which I think was actually the first session of any kind that happened in the States. I'm not after the store open. But one important thing that distinguishes this venue from the PNA, which I am a member of, the Penny Neighborhood Association, is that there is a cafe here. And so my Irish session, which happens around lunchtime on Saturdays, is basically like a brunch session. So people are eating their lunch or brunch and drinking their morning coffee. And sometimes their early afternoon beer in this space, and that's something you can't do at the PNA outside of one of their organized fundraising events. Secondly, I just wanted to mention that the reach of the community isn't necessarily limited to the neighborhood. I stream my music session and have regular participants from as far away as South Florida and Canada and Vancouver, BC. And you know, for those people, and what swim. You know, this session has been kind of a lifeline, cultural lifeline for them. Knowing that they can reliably tune in to be part of the music community here. And it does feel like a community because they're chatting with us on between tunes and it's, you know, they have told me that it feels like they're right there with
Yeah.
And I love what Kenny just said. I would totally be willing to buy into that kind of a co-op model. I think that was
one thing that the student committee has talked about, and please chime in if you have one as well, is we have talked about other places that we know in other cities. Well, Third Place Books is in this city, and then people have mentioned that, but there are other places. You know, in Washington, D.C., there's a famous bookstore and cafe in DuPont Circle. I don't know if some of you have been to Manny's in San Francisco, but Manny's has built the back room up to a real place, an exchange of ideas, to the point where, you know, when the Democrats run for president, the first stop on the tour is the back room of Manny's. But they're talking about, queer gender issues and housing, and they're talking about all sorts of things. And they have a huge national and international audience that pipes into that. The room isn't any bigger. It's a little bit bigger than this. It's very well, if they've got a good casting, a good webcast going on in there, and it's well curated. And it's nation famous. Bing, you were gonna remember one thing you wanted to say.
I just wanted to finish one thought. Again, to the idea of the community extending beyond the boundaries of the neighborhood. The Couth Buzzard has been live streaming most of their concerts in the evenings for free. And admittedly, the tech has been kind of hit or miss lately, because so often it kind of drops out. But if we could get that down, a lot of other organizations that have been hosting streamed performances, they have a regular ticket charge for those, like Seattle Folklore Society. And so if we could get the quality of the broadcast, we could perhaps monetize that those events as well.
Yeah. We have a comment here, but you go first.
This is a small one, but an important one. We've been talking, because most of us represent groups and events. Theo has asked me to interview each of the staff members and find out their perspective on things. And the thing I want to bring up that returns to what Kate talked about loneliness is people wander in. Every day people wander in who aren't connected to a group or a jam session or a discussion. They find the place somehow and they are welcome. Maybe they just want to sit in that quiet corner with a book. Maybe they don't buy that book. They talk to the staff. I've seen staff reach into their own pockets and feed people. This is that kind of a place for individuals as well as groups. Just wanted to tell you what I've heard and seen in talking.
Nice.
I'm Diana, and I'm sort of following. Great intro. Listening to everybody saying about monetizing things. I wandered in and do not go to most jams, but come in to take the risk of listening to somebody I've never heard and walk in and like, I don't know what I'm doing, but not having to pay a certain amount up front welcomes me and allows me. And most times, I'm paying way more at the end. But that to say, here's the donation, here's the suggested donation, is a wall. I may not be a very tall one, but some people can't do $50 a month or won't do it for, who's the Scott Katz guy?
Yeah.
Personally, I would do 75 a month, but we'll talk later. So, the welcoming community bit and financial, and I think that people are assuming that their reality is everybody's financial reality, and that's really not the case at all. So keep that in mind.
Part of what you said I found very offensive, because I've been doing so many events here for nothing for so long. Most musicians don't make any money unless you're in an elite group where you can charge $50 to go in the door, like Jazz Alley or San Michelle, whatever. If you can't afford it, nobody ever gets turned away, ever.
But it's very embarrassing to have to say, "Can I have a grant?" It is a wall for some people.
I think it's too bad.
To keep that in mind.
No, what you have to keep in mind is that we're all working our asses off for decades trying to create this model.
Yeah.
And if somebody can't be part of it, that's okay.
So
But we're talking about welcoming and not welcoming.
But Kenny,
community building.
so Kenny,
But we have to exist. we can't exist without money coming in.
Yeah, so Kenny, for the person who is more challenged, okay, they come into your event.
Yeah, I say, come on in.
You say, come on in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I've had that conversation many times with people, and they say, I have no money.
Yeah.
Or our great friend Marla, who just passed away, and we memorialized, she had $1. She threw in $1.
Right.
50 cents.
Yeah.
I never said
As
to her,
that tone is kept, that's great.
Well,
That's
that's
what's
it.
gonna build community, and that is the point that I'm trying to make.
I don't worry about that. Everybody here, Ming and whoever else, Bruce, Carol, we're all on that same page. We've all worked for decades for nothing to create that community, that space. And that's why this place is here. What we're talking about is how do we make it survive? And it's not gonna survive in capitalist America without some money. And that's, I applaud your guys' effort in a sense of trying to raise money in a conscientious way.
So is your philosophy, don't hide the fact that we need money to support this place and to keep the lights on. Let's acknowledge the money and simultaneously with that, in duality with that, we also say everyone is welcome. And if you can't pay, that's fine, we still want you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps the community going, and lets people take a risk of coming in.
But you gotta pay your bill.
Yeah, let's hear from Carmen, who we haven't heard from, and then we're going to hear from Kate again.
So building on this conversation, I mean, it seems like on the short-term thing, having just better practices. I'm Carmen, by the way. Thank you, Drew, and I can take my mask off while I talk. I perform here in I come to the open mics a lot. I come to the Songwriters in Seattle. I'm a member of Songwriters in Seattle. I've become a fan of Rue's music, so I always come when he's hosting to see, because I get to hear his band. And then he often has me perform when I'm there too, so it works out. But anyway, the thing, it seems like it would be good. I've just noticed different people have different practices of when people come in, like it would make sense to have just kind of best practices for a group to give people opportunities to make money. Chuck, you're really good at talking about in Miro when he was subbing for you, which he would before he started the open mic, with a bunch of people show up to, he would say, we don't expect you to pay to play. We do rely on donations to keep this place going. And then it gets passed around. So you've got both messages there, and there are people who come to open mic who, clearly have no means of paying. And it's wonderful that they're part of the community. But I think sometimes events happen where there's no mention of passing the hat. There's no mention of putting in. I've performed here as a performer. I'm not a promoter, so it's all someone else has always promoted the show. But sometimes I come in here and it's very well organized, and there's 2 hats, and the host says there's 2 hats at the door. One is for the Couth, one is for the musicians. Please put into both. And other times events here happen where nobody says anything, and that box is just sitting there, and it's people need to be nudged. I guess is what I'm saying. But I also so that's about that. That's about current practices. Like just it seems like in the meantime we can step things up, but it seems like that alone is not a sustainable model. Is that what this group is saying? That even if all the events we had here, even if they brought in more revenue, it still wouldn't be enough.
It wouldn't be enough by itself. It would defray the need. And giving money, I forget your name.
Tess.
Tess is talking about the flow of energy you know, that money came from somewhere. Whether you got it from somebody, you know, who you were married to or somebody you inherited from, that money came from somewhere. And it is a potential form of energy. And when you give it away, you're giving away energy in your life to support something. And so the giving of money, especially when you start to go into a member organization like Kenny is talking about, you know, you're supporting it by giving donations or by working there and volunteering there. Those are other ways that people get connected to healthy organizations. So it would not be enough to pay all the bills to pass the hat, right? But it would help defray. We're going to go Kate. Yeah, Kate, and then back to Chuck, and then in the middle of the room there.
Just because I can totally segue from that. So two things we haven't talked about, and they're both good things, positive things. One is, well, the positive thing is that while Theo, you have kept this place afloat for 14 years, amazingly. The other thing is that Theo's only one person, and I've heard him get up every morning at 5 o'clock and walk up here. I mean, every day for no vacation for a long time. So what I'm saying is that that's kind of a good thing, is that he's only been able to do so much. So when we get more people involved, that's going to be good. You know, that means that we'll be able to do that. The other thing is that we haven't talked about generational stuff. And so one time I was walking outside and this young guy was, I think it was his parents, and he walked by and he goes, "That's a really cool place." And that guy seemed to be like one of the many young people that are making a lot of money. So we talked in the steering committee about the flow of money to somehow, for a while, I've just been in on the young people that come in and they see Theo and they grab onto, he's got the ideology of the 60s, like he's almost like part of the Antique Roadshow. But some young people totally get that, and they will give to this place. And I fantasize about this back space once a week being like blue light and really cool music and a whole bunch of what do you call them, beanbags, somehow helping pull the young people in. But I also think that we can tap them, and because of the values, we can tap that energy source.
Chuck, and then you. Yeah.
I will say that we've had a pretty successful and non-intrusive experience in raising money at open mic. We don't just leave the box on the table. We grab the box and we walk it through the crowd. And we basically say, this is not pay to play. This is to help keep the venue open. No one's going to pay any attention to whether you put money in. No one's going to pay any attention to how much money you put in. Give whatever you can, if you can, and if you feel like it. And no, you're not going to get an extra 7 minutes and pay twice. And so that's been really good. What we do is we establish an expectation that it's not just a free ride, and we make a convenient and non-intrusive opportunity to anonymously donate. So it's not like, hey, the box is over there, on your way out, throw in $5. No, here comes the box. It's walking right past you. And if you want to pull out a 5 or a 10 or a 1 or throw in 50 cents, God bless you. And if you don't have anything, God bless you too. Because your participation here doesn't depend on what you pay or whether you pay. So an expectation that, here, folks, this is the reality. This place costs money to keep going. This is your opportunity to help support it. And here comes the box right in front of you to make it really convenient for you. And this is going to be the moment we all take together to pool our resources to make this go. And that box gets pretty full on Wednesday nights. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, nice. So we are, Steve said before that we are going to try to be respectful of people's time and end at 9. So I'm not trying to cut off conversation. We've had some really good conversation about money and Chuck is talking about opportunity, access to the box, opportunity, acknowledgement, but still keeping the welcoming thing. These are some of the tenets we talked about money. So I would ask if you, unless you have something which is on top of that, that we also make sure that we cover other subjects that people have, so we get to all the times, we cover all the bases.
Also the chat, is there?
Is there stuff in the chat? Should we go to the chat?
Actually, there was just one question,
Yeah.
She wanted to know if it was up for sale for any group, if the Buzzard is available to purchase by any group, and that was from the best.
I don't think Theo has worked with a broker or put the business on the market yet. Yeah, not yet, but
And nobody's come knocking.
and nobody, yeah, but Theo is lots of people will entertain offers, so don't hold back if you're thinking about it.
Know that person?
Yeah, so if you're interested, we'd love to know you. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Allie.
Allie.
So this place has a big spot in my heart, but I don't come here enough. And I was just gonna ask if, I know we've been talking a lot about ideas, but as we come up with opportunities for folks to help out, is there gonna be a list we can sign up for?
I'm passing around the mailing list right now. Where did the clipboard go to with the mailing list? No, I've been passing it around the room. Make sure you're on this so you can capture that.
Yeah.
And do people know, maybe it's a silly question, it's illegal for a sole proprietorship to have volunteers.
But not illegal for nonprofit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, nonprofit's gonna have volunteers. They have an
You can't
exemption.
come help,
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
I just was, the other thing about about the ad hoc fundraising that happens at all events, in terms of best practices, would be to get a CR code that goes to the GoFundMe. That we just, that's there. A lot of people who come to open mic are young, a lot of people, songwriters in Seattle, half of them, a lot of people don't come around.
Yeah, we talked about a Venmo account and a QR code in it, yeah.
Good.
Who else? I'm sorry, I missed you. We're winding down, that's good. That's good, I don't see as many hands yet.
I'm Sharon. I'm one of the hosts of the Brazilian Choro Jam.
Nice.
And we have a nice festival coming up. And my personal nerdy thing is ethnomusicology, so I'll mention that because I wanted to talk about some of the things that make, I'm sure circling back to what makes the Couth unique. And many of you talked about your personal music sessions that you're involved in. And there's actually a term for that. Most of the music we're used to seeing is called presentational, where the audience sits out there, somebody highly trained sits up on the stage, and it's a one-way kind of, well, it's not one way, but the activities are very distinct. What we do here at the Couth is called participatory music. And there's actually been research about this by a man named Thomas Torino, who's a professor of anthropology and musicology. So, and he's got a description, and it involves the idea that you welcome people who don't know a lot, that you have a way for them to enter in. And the interesting thing is we not only have these individual sessions that do it, but the whole calendar is built around that, because you have the open mic, you have, all the different things. You've got a kind of presentational thing going on with the concerts. But the important thing about those concerts is that those are a doorway in to people who want to perform more and who are trying to build musical careers. So it's a big thing that's happening on so many levels. And I want to tie this back to one of Kate's points about, what are our measurable outcomes. And one of the things I've noticed in the news lately is recently a study about what's the source of drug use and abuse in this country. Boredom. People who don't know what the hell to do with themselves.
Right.
And we all know that music is a wonderful use of your time. In fact, many of you are probably kind of addicted to it. You can't help doing it. But it's something that participatory music can offer people that presentational cannot. And our schools are only teaching presentational for the most part at the higher levels. The kids get to do participatory, but once you hit, what instrument do you want to play, you go into the presentational mode. So I think it's wonderful that we have that to offer. I think that we should stand for that. That idea of involving people in activities. It doesn't have to just be music. There's also different ways of doing art. There's, you know, the art that goes up in a museum, and there's the art that's on the walls here. You know, so it's, I think it's an important, I don't want to call it a model in the normal sense, but just a template maybe of other way to build social relations for our larger society. And one last point, people are talking about how the Couth is unique. It is unique in a couple physical ways. One is the location is absolutely fabulous. You're on major bus lines. The sound in the space is great. How many of you look for places to play and you go, I can't play there. It's too echoey or it's too dead, right? That's valuable. This building is great. And let's see, but not only is the Couth unique for its social environment and its physical environment, the Pacific Northwest is. I have friends in other parts of the country, and Shore is good that way because it connects you places. And many of them have commented about how much community music there is in the Pacific Northwest. We have tons of community orchestras too. So again, we're tied in with these things. And just one last note, which is I did community planning for, you know, a number of decades when I had another job. And one of the important things I think that we need to build here that we haven't really talked about is what is the resource inventory that we have that's not just money. The community, we've talked about here in the individual pieces, but we haven't talked about how those are really resources that we are offering the world. So anyway, I think that's my piece.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's nice. So, who has not, or who wants to put their email on here, we can pass it around. If you put up your hand, we'll do that. So I think we've done a pretty good job of getting around the room and hearing from people. I do want to say that most offerings, most commercial offerings, most things in the downtown core, in a commercial core like this, and this does not have to be the last thing that's said. I just wanted to mention this. Is that you kind of walk up to them. You know, you come at them as a spectator. And so with what we're talking about here is being a participant is not just a participant in a music session, but we've also heard this place talk about as church, which is a different spiritual type of participation. And tonight we are crafting a business, we're crafting an organization, we're crafting a way of connecting with people. And that's also a mode of participation. And I'm taking a little note from Chuck here, and I'm saying, okay, folks, let's pay for our therapy tonight. And we pass this around. Yes, and Chuck was up here and say nobody's going to watch how much you throw in. I wouldn't say that, but let's pass this around and support the Couth. Thanks.
I was thinking, how many times have I tucked a bill in my back pocket when I left home and walked out with that, just forgetting to put it in at the end of the night. So
well, I just want to say too that your coming tonight is more valuable than anything. Thank you.
Something I want to say to riff on what you said here. Participatory music and arts and dance is what is my passion in life, supporting that, making that happen. And the Couth is a unique, one-of-a-kind place for that in this community, where so many different kinds of participatory music occur. That, I think, is a strong mission statement for this place as a nonprofit, and as the place where we nurture and support and make sure that continues to happen.
That to me is the most important aspect of the food program. And as far as I'd love to get a discussion on how important different aspects of this space are. Like how important are the books in comparison to that, for example? How important is the fact there's beer and wine and coffee? How much space should be for meetings and how much should the footprint be for that? What would this place look like 5 years out? If it were an ideal 2040.
That could be the whole night's discussion.
Can I end with because Carmen and others going to perform fundraiser for Couth Buzzard books. They even are so hip that they put the code there. I'm going to read because it's so well written. Did you write this? Okay. Let me read this.
This is Carl.
It's a double feature, ukulele punk Carmen DeForest of Carmageddon and singing songwriter called Niece are raising funds to help Couth Buzzard Books Cafe Community Art Space get back on its feet after the financial fiasco caused by that pandemic. Carmageddon will be crooning and subverting standards with singer Virginia Sorrells and bassist Ken Nottingham, no doubt joined by others. Carl will open the show with a set of originals and covers backed by flautist Nancy Morgan and wife Carol. No cover charge, but donations are strongly encouraged. Also, beer, books, and other beverages are available to drink. Join us Saturday. Anyway, that's the way to do it. I'm constantly haranguing people to listen to be posted like this,
Oh, you got a QR code
and so thank you for doing your awesome post with me. And we'll see you Saturday night.
All right. So does anybody else on the steering committee want to say something before we close out?
If there's anything that didn't get up on one of these pages, Karen.
Yeah.
I think you should add the word civic engagement, because you're talking a lot about musicians, but before we had a lot of talk, we've had housing groups here, I mean, like a whole section, so civic engagement.
Yeah.
I have just a question about, was part of the conversation tonight about how things were gonna run when Theo leaves, like who's gonna.
Yeah,
Well, that's kind of next steps, which I think Steve is gonna close on next steps, right?
Yeah, are you gonna do that? You want to do that?
I'm gonna close on next steps.
Okay. Okay.
Well, what I'm thinking is that, I mean, the steering team already has a plan.
Hold on, guys, let's have one conversation. Why don't you stand up? Here.
We already have a plan to meet and process and synthesize everything that has been said. So I think this has been amazing, and we have a lot to go through and kind of, as I said, synthesize and pick out the things that I think are the major themes and takeaways. So we're going to be doing that. And then I think we will come up with some specific next steps as to either what additional community engagement we want, additional input from you all. Certainly looking at the sign-in sheet to see, who's interested in continuing to help and contribute and engage with this effort. And then I think, the plan certainly is to hone in on something that looks like a specific plan. Theo, ultimately, as we said, is really the decision maker here. Because his steering team is informed. There's nothing on paper at all that says that we exist in any kind of a formal or legal sense. So Theo will ultimately, I think, be the person to decide, what sort of makes sense from his perspective. We'll be talking about that soon, and we'll get a communique out to everyone, saying what's next.
We also one thing the steering committee has talked about, which we haven't talked about so much tonight, is that if it does go nonprofits, who is the person who would be hired to be the general manager or the executive director, or the person who would have the leadership that Theo has provided for all these years? And that's can be that can be a tough hire, and so if you know that person, that's a great thing for the steering committee to know, because these things build on momentum. We find a few board members, we find an ED, the executive director, we find a couple of anchor donors, and that's the kind of thing that puts this together.
I would just like to honor my fellow members of this ad hoc group because of skills that I don't have. They brought such amazing business and financial and organizational acumen to the discussion and met almost every week for months online. And some of us just saw each other in person for the first time tonight. And I just, what you guys have donated of yourselves has been amazing.
We can just break up and continue the conversation.
But before we break up, we're gonna sing a song together because so it's helpful if we pick a song that we all know. And Tom Lehrer says the reason that most folk songs are so atrocious is that they were written by the people. So I'm sorry if you don't like the song, but we're gonna sing it anyway. This land is yours. It's like it's mine. From California to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I went walking and with the sky away, I saw the that every sun. I saw the lonely that every sun. This land was made for you and me. This land is yours. This land is smile from California to your lands, from the big forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. Thanks for coming.